Welcome back to Withdraw Consent. I'm Jack. I apologize for not being here last week. If you're interested in the lore on that, I'll put that at the end of the episode. So basically, I want to make an episode, and it's going to be called "Why Do Christians Support the Jewish Power Party?" And we're not talking Likud Party. We're talking about literally the Jewish Power Party. And in order to make that episode, I got to make this episode that's going to be out Thursday, and it's about this guy who was the philosophical underwriter of the Jewish Power Party. His name's Amir Kahana, and he was this Zionist ethno-nationalist, ended up getting assassinated. I'll tell that story on Thursday. When I was doing the research for that episode, I thought, well, I'm an ethno-nationalist. If I was an Israeli Jew, would I be Amir Kahana, right? Would I be this guy? And the answer is no. We'll talk about that on Thursday. But I want to talk about the argument for ethno-nationalism today. So that when we get to that discussion on Thursday about would I be that guy or not, I'm able to explain that in the proper way. So basically, what is ethnic nationalism or ethno-nationalism? Basically, it's a form of nationalism wherein the nation and nationality are defined in terms of ethnicity, with emphasis on an ethnocentric approach to various political issues related to national affirmation of a particular ethnic group. The central tenet of ethnic nationalists is that nations are defined by a shared heritage, which usually includes common language, a common faith, and a common ethnic ancestry. Those of other ethnicities may be classified as second-class citizens. So we're talking about whether or not your country has a homogeneous group of one people, or is it heterogeneous? And now you don't, if you have a homogeneous group of people, just one group of people, it doesn't necessarily have to be ethno-nationalism. It doesn't have to be, right? But I contend that if you're in a country and your country is successful for whatever reason they're successful, and there's people of another country nearby or even on the other side of the world that are very unsuccessful, they'll want to move to your country. And your country will then become heterogeneous. If your country is successful, and it doesn't matter why they were unsuccessful or why you're successful, your country could have made their country unsuccessful, which happens a lot in the United States. And the United States then brings in the refugees, right? But no matter what, if you're successful and you don't really care about your people, you're just like, whatever, all people are the same, just different colors or whatever, different cultures, all cultures are equal, all religions are equal. I don't know what you're talking about, but any of those views, and you'll just let them in, then your country will become heterogeneous. Okay, so the question is, do we want a homogeneous country or heterogeneous country? Now, let's talk about what it means to be a heterogeneous country. We're talking about multiculturalism here, okay? Lots of different ways multiculturalism can manifest. It's not a monolith at all. On one far extreme, you could have apartheid. We've seen that multiple times where you have multiple ethnic groups, at least two in a country, and one's treated by a different standard of legal rules. Theoretically, you could have apartheid is always used to discriminate. Theoretically, you could have a non-discriminatory apartheid where two or more groups agree to live in separate parts of the country, do separate things, be governed by one government, have equal representation. I just think that would end in a disaster. That's hypothetically, it could happen. On the far other end of the spectrum, you have what you have in a lot of areas of the United States, and you have just fully integrated neighborhoods, with just whoever can live there, whatever. Somewhere in the middle between that, you have voluntary segregation. So there you'll have like a Chinatown, a little Italy. In LA, they literally have a little Croatia. Like you could have a little anything. You could a little Armenia. You could whatever you want. And so it's completely voluntary. And it's just people wanting to be around people like themselves in a multicultural country. But I'm not talking about like where it's like you can't go there if you're not that. Because then you go to, like, say, Little Italy, and they have all types of Italian restaurants, stores, etc., and they want you to come because you're like the tourists coming to their town or country, whatever. And so multiculturalism can manifest itself in all these different ways. But we did an episode on this before, and I'm going to put a link to the episode in the description below, and I'm going to put under references, I'm going to put a reference to the article that episode covered. It was called The Downsides of Diversity. And it was one of the most important episodes we did on this channel. Victor was here back then. If you haven't watched it, I encourage you to watch it. It's one of the most important episodes we've done. But basically, the short of it is that they did this largest social study of its kind at at the time, I believe it was 2006, just based on recollection. They had never done anything this big before on this grand a scale. And it was people simping for multiculturalism, liberal multiculturalist professor doing this study in order to prove that multiculturalism was great. And basically, the result of the study was that on every single metric measured, it was worse for a group that was multicultural compared to a group that was homogeneous. Every single metric it was worse on. He sat on the study for 6 years because he's like, how can I print this? He's a multiculturalist guy. Then he ends up trying to do this thing at the end. Well, if we had more YMCAs and more places that people could come together, nah, it's completely false. So he has to idealistically hypothesize some way that fanatic, that fantastic way that multiculturalism could have one positive thing to it. So if you don't believe me on that, go check it out because we go over it. And it's a really valuable resource because if you're ever talking to somebody in there into the diversity thing, you could just literally Google on your phone the downsides of diversity. That article will pop up. It's a massive, massive thing that happened, So if we say that, if I can get you to that point, which is factually true, this is not my opinion. This is factually, scientifically true. You don't believe it. You want to run a bigger study that disproves that, kind of what that guy already did, and it had absolutely zero success. So it's clear that if you're a logic person, that a homogeneous country is the way to go. Okay. Now that doesn't mean you have to be an ethno-nationalist to have a homogeneous country. But my point earlier is that if you're successful, people will come. And what's to prevent you from guarding your borders against just nice people? I'm not talking about criminals, but just say economic migrants. Like for example, H1B visas, like people with skills. They're coming to you like, hey, I got skills. I could be a valuable person. I have to pay taxes. I'll be watched very closely. If I commit any type of crime, I get kicked out. So how do you prevent those people from coming? Well, the answer is ethno-nationalism. Because, like, if you look at this quote in here, the central tenet of ethnic nationalists is that, quote, nations are defined by a shared heritage, which usually includes a common language, a common faith, and a common ethnic ancestry. So, real quick here, what's the opposite of ethno-nationalism? The answer is civic nationalism. Let me read you the definition of that. Or let me read you this. The opposite of ethno-nationalism is civic nationalism, which defines a nation based on a shared citizenship and political values rather than ethnicity or cultural heritage. Civic nationalism emphasizes freedom, tolerance, and equality among all citizens, regardless of their ethnic backgrounds. So, the United States is a civic nationalist state, right? A country, I'm sorry. And that downsides of diversity study was studying all those things and said, well, if we just do more civic things, maybe every single metric won't be terrible, that they tested for. And the answer is it's not going to work. It's cool to think in an ideal way and hope that everybody gets along and but the answer in life, and I'm an optimistic guy, and I've thought this before, if everybody we can have the utopia, but the problem is a lot of people won't go along with anything that's going on. And if that's the case, you need more than just, hey guys, be a good patriot, take your shopping cart back. It's not going to work. People will leave their shopping carts out any shopping place in the country. I guarantee you, and so what you need is as many to share as many things with the people around you, so you don't feel like you want to do the opposite of everything that everybody else is doing. So it's essential in order to maintain a homogeneous country that you protect your borders and your immigration laws. It's just fundamental, right? Because otherwise you lose your homogeneity. So if that's the case, then ethno-nationalism forces you to do that. Because you lose, like say, I don't know, I'll just pick a country, Egyptian. If Egypt stops having Egyptians in it, then Egypt will not be Egyptian anymore. And if you have that view, then you'll guard, which is an ethno-national, I'm not saying they have that view, but that's an ethno-nationalist view, then they will protect their borders and their immigration laws, and then you'll have some Christians saying, why don't you take a bunch of Palestinians? Okay, whatever. Anyways, so the question here is, ethno-nationalism has been vilified by almost everybody in the mainstream. And you can't, you can point to historical examples if you want to, but what I'm saying is there anything in ethno-nationalism that's fundamentally good or evil is the question. And the answer is no. There is nothing that is either good or evil in ethno-nationalism. It's just a way to think about your country. It's a way to manifest your nationalism, right? So, or even your nationality. Now, it could be used for good or bad. So if you take a country that had, I don't know, 98% one people and 2% another people. I don't like using 2% because then you're going to think about that. I'm not thinking about that. Say it's 90% and 10%, right? And you decide, okay, we're turning the corner. We're going ethno-nationalist. This 10% just came in the last 40 years. We're over this, right? Now, how you act then is going to determine whether or not your ethno-nationalism is good or bad. If you were to take and say, hey, the final solution for those 10%, then you're a terrible person, right? If it's rob them and beat them as you're, kicking them out of the country, then that's a terrible thing. You should treat people humanely. If they came here and they made a pact with you, or they came there, wherever this hypothetical country is, and made a pact with that country, there should be something involved in the breakup that's fair and amicable, I believe. That's in my opinion. Well, that's because I'm a decent person, unlike Mir Kahana, which we're going to get to in the next episode. So to sort of recap, that ethno-nationalism is the way to go, in my opinion. Having a homogeneous country is the way to go. To do that, you have to secure your borders and immigration. You could be idealistic and think that civic nationalism is the way to do it, and it's failed in the past. It's just failed. Ethno-nationalism is a way that will succeed in doing that. And then you still have to be successful, though. You still have to, and then it's important to know that it's neither good nor bad. Ethno-nationalism. They try to paint it to vilify it, but there's nothing bad with it. It's like saying, it's like a Chinese person saying China is for China. Well, China is for China. It's not for Africans. It's not for Europeans. It's not for South Americans. It's just not. And if you say that that's racist and I'm a terrible racist for doing that, then cool. I'll get a shirt that says that I am, because that's nonsense. China is for the Chinese. And you can say that as much as you want on the internet, and everybody will be fine. But once you say Germany is for Germans, or England is for the English, or Ireland is for the Irish, or America is for the Native Americans, the actual people who came here instead of, okay, well, you don't get that. I'm sorry, that's a Madison Grant quote, because he said that the original settlers who came over here were the Native Americans, because the other ones were the, I don't know, American Indians or something. And so they had named themselves the Native Americans. But it's for the original people who came here and settled. If you try to say that, people will say you're racist. And it's important to know that it's neither good nor evil ethno-nationalism. It's just how you were to do it. You could do it in a terrible, evil way. You could do it in a very good and fair, humane way. Okay, so then on Thursday, we're going to talk about Mir Kahana. Now we're talking about the lore. We went in for the whole thing over a month early, and to have the baby. And we literally got 5 minutes away, double IVs in. I'm wearing all this ridiculous garb, 5 minutes away. And then the doctor canceled the whole thing because she had done some tests and they got better. So anyways, that's been delayed. And like with preeclampsia, if you don't know, it's better out than in if the baby's viable. But her numbers are going back up. So every day that baby's in the belly is better. So I'm going to try to not have any losses of episodes or weeks, even with this whole thing, because I should have, when I get paternity leave, I'm on paternity leave right now, which is funny, but then I'm going to actually go back to work tomorrow because the baby's not coming. And so when I do paternity leave, I'm going to have plenty of time to do this, and I'm trying to get a couple episodes ahead so that if emergencies come up, I won't miss a week. Anyways, that's what I got for you. Hope to see you Thursday. We'll talk about Mir Kahana and a wild ethno-nationalist Zionist.